Think about that sentence for a moment. It's a single, stark calculation from a forgotten chapter of history. A story of unbelievable wealth built on a cost that was absolute. This wasn't a mine or a battlefield. This was a trade in bird droppings.
Welcome to Insight History HD. Together, we will peel back the layers of narratives long locked away in the archives of history.
You know, every major event is really a chain reaction, a kind of butterfly effect, where one seemingly small thing triggers a global transformation. Well, in the 19th century, that one small thing wasn't gold, it wasn't oil, it was something called guano. For thousands of years off the coast of Peru, this unique ocean current called the Humboldt created a perfect storm of marine life. Millions upon millions of seabirds feasted there, nesting on these barren, rainless islands. And they left behind mountains of their droppings, some of them up to 50 meters high. Because it never rained, the droppings didn't wash away. They basically fossilized into the most potent natural fertilizer known to man.
And the world was desperate for it. As it's detailed in the historical analysis, The Nitrogen Monopoly, the Industrial Revolution had pushed populations and cities to a breaking point. The soil was just exhausted. The very real threat of mass famine was looming. And it was this desperation that transformed Peruvian guano from simple bird waste into white gold, a substance that became more precious than almost anything else on Earth. So this guano boom showered Peru with what historians have called a fictitious prosperity. Sure, it funded armies and it built railroads, but that wealth was being dug out of islands that became, for all intents and purposes, hell on Earth. Who did the work? Well, the labor force was made up of convicts and army deserters, but its real backbone was a group of nearly 100,000 Chinese men. They were brought to Peru between 1849 and 1874 under a law called the Ley China. They were told they were going to the gold mines of California to make their fortunes. Instead, they were sold into bondage. The conditions were simply inhumane. The very air they breathed was toxic, a thick cloud of caustic dust that literally destroyed their lungs. The workdays were brutally long, all enforced by the whip. Men were buried alive when the giant piles of guano would collapse. Suicide was so common, it was seen as an epidemic. Workers would throw themselves from the cliffs, holding on to the belief that their souls would finally be free to fly home. This is where the sheer horror is quantified. A report in the Nitrogen Monopoly documented these staggering mortality rates. For the Chinese laborers on the Guano Islands, the death rate approached 100%. 100%! Every single ton of this white gold was paid for with human lives. This wasn't just hard labor, it was an active death sentence. So the story now shifts, and it expands from the suffering of individuals to the ambition of nations. The immense value of guano and the fact that Peru had a total monopoly on it did not go unnoticed. The United States in particular saw this as a major strategic vulnerability, and they decided to do something about it. So, in 1856, the US Congress passed what has to be one of the most unusual and consequential laws in its history, the Guano Islands Act. It basically empowered any American citizen to claim any unclaimed, uninhabited island anywhere in the world in the name of the United States, as long as it had guano on it. And this, right here, illustrates a radical pivot in American policy. Before this, you see expansion meant taking over adjacent land, like in the westward movement, with the promise that it would eventually become a state. The Guano Islands Act created a totally new model. Overseas territories, not connected to the mainland, claimed not for settlement, but for a single resource. It was, in effect, a blueprint for a new kind of empire. And believe me, this was not some temporary fad. As it's recorded in the Foreign Relations of the United States Diplomatic Papers 1932, the US government was still using this 1856 act to justify its claim to islands like Navassa over 70 years later. An empire born of bird excrement had put down very permanent roots. But of course, the guano deposits began to run out. The global hunger for fertilizer, though, didn't disappear. It just shifted its focus from the islands to the mainland, to the huge mineral nitrate deposits in the Atacama Desert. The conflict over nitrogen was about to escalate into all-out war. The War of the Pacific, which is also known as the Saltpeter War, was a brutal, bloody conflict fought explicitly for control of the world's nitrogen supply. According to sources like Navigating Nitrate, Chile, Peru, and Bolivia went to war over the very same resource that had defined the Guano Age. And the result? It completely redrew the map of South America, leaving Bolivia landlocked and transferring control of the world's most valuable fertilizer to Chile. This entire incredible saga, from the Guano Islands to the battlefields of the Atacama, it was the bridge to our modern world. It was the final, violent chapter in humanity's dependence on fertilizers that you could find in nature. The next step would be to create them from thin air. The progression is just so stark when you see it laid out. First, Peru controlled nitrogen from birds. Then Chile controlled nitrogen from the ground. And finally, in 1913, the invention of the Haber-Bosch process allowed scientists to create synthetic ammonia. The age of fighting over these finite deposits of nitrogen was over. A new age of industrial creation had begun. The impact was, well, staggering. As one scientific paper put it, a century of ammonia synthesis changed the world. And that's no exaggeration. It's synthetic nitrogen fertilizer that has allowed our planet to sustain a population that has exploded to 8 billion people.
And yet, this incredible triumph carries with it a haunting echo of the past, doesn't it? By creating limitless nitrogen, we also created massive ecological consequences: greenhouse gas emissions, polluted waterways, dead zones in the ocean. It seems we broke free from one resource dependency only to create another, with its own profound hidden costs.
The quest for fertilizer that began with bird droppings now defines the very structure of modern civilization. If this journey has offered you a new perspective, support our exploration by subscribing to Insight History HD. Thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next narrative.